The average young man today is broke, sad, unhealthy, depressed, anxious, and he has all these problems, right? Now, if I also just one advice, right, to a young man today, is just what is to become intentionally intention. Now, I was thinking about it for a while. What was that one advice that changed my life completely? Was this becoming intentionally obsessed? I use the word intentionally and obsessed there because the obsession that's not intentional is what unintentional unintentional obsession is actually equals to distractions or addiction. So that's the reason that I chose the word intentionally obsessed. And the reason I put in this because the average young man today, if you look at every area of his life, it just feels like he's completely losing. So let's look at the areas of life of a young man today. Let's look at his health. Let's look at wealth. Let's look at relationships. Let's look at happiness. The average young man today, obviously, we have obesity. We have unhealthy diets, right? It's just basically unhealthy. Our diet is fucked up. Everything comes down to lifestyle. The health is fucked up. He's obese. He's what? For wealth, the average young man today is broke. He's what? He's broke. He's relying on his parents. And heck, think about it. I'm still going to like the solutions to this. For every of these problems, I'll be showing you the intentional solution. Hold on, let me get the green marker because I always use green for the solutions. Wealth. So relationships is what? He's lonely. Even no girlfriend, no friends. What? For happiness, he's just basically sad. Constant anxiety. I think I should even put depression here. So let's see what happens when one becomes intentionally obsessed. What happens? Because the whole idea is that if you're not intentional about any area of your life, that area of your life is bound to suffer. It's like this. If this is you, right, and this is your health, if you don't make your health intentional, this is what it's going to look like. Chaos. Proper chaos. It's like your attention, going in different directions. Because of no intentions, it's going in different directions. And guess what? This happens a lot for most people, precisely with their health, how they outsource their health thinking towards experts that just want to use them for profit. This is why I say the average young man today is seen more as a profit center than a person that has a purpose and a being. So if this is your health and you don't set an intention, this is what's going to happen. Your diet is going to be messed up. You're going to watch a lot of propaganda. You will barely work out. Bad sleep. But the moment you set an intention, what happens is, this is unintentional, but when you set an intention, what happens is, you now have a direction for that area of your life. What begins to happen is, you will know the benefit of working out. You will know the benefit of bad sleep. The benefit of you will be able to detect propaganda when you see one. A very huge propaganda that gets to me, that I think at some point got to me, was eggs. After doing my research, I discovered that eggs and cholesterol were complete BS. One, cholesterol is needed for the brain. Protein and cholesterol, good thing for what? For cognitive functions. At the same time, it does not raise jack shit. It has high cholesterol, but it does not raise it as much as some other sources of cholesterol. So the cholesterol from egg is very, very good. Two is I think I watched a video of the guy eating about 72 eggs per day for 30 days, and his cholesterol level dropped. It did not rise. So all that means is, when you become healthy, it's easier for you to detect propaganda. Another propaganda I think I saw that blew my mind was regarding people that floss their teeth. The propaganda said the people that floss their teeth have better brain health. Such propagandas are built to increase the profit of these companies. So think about it. It's because people that floss their teeth actually have, for someone to floss his teeth means that the person himself already has good hygiene. So the connection between them and the brain health is not exactly the same thing, because the people who actually have better brain health are people who have good hygiene. In the process, they'll be able to floss. So somebody might read the propaganda and think, no, the person has a good brain health because he flosses. So it's a very funny thing. So what happens when you become very intentional, your energy is focused, it is directed. Now, it is directed. I use the word intentional, and I use the word obsessed because when somebody is very intentional, he knows what he wants in that area of life and knows that he's going to minimize the number of regrets in that area of life. One, two, obsessed means that you are so much invested in that idea to the point that you are enjoying it itself. So, for example, is health. A lot of people have bad health. I'm saying on health because when you become intentional about your health, what happens? You begin to eat well. You begin to eat right. When you're eating right, you get to realize that you have more energy for the day. You will consume less sugar. So you have things like less sugar, more carbs. Speaking of propaganda and health, I always tell people that you see the health advice that you see, a good way to detect propaganda is the health advice that you see on your TV is most likely propaganda. The real health advice does not appear on TV because it's too boring for news channels to carry it. Now think about it. It now makes sense that the people who are actually having this health advice, literally the bad propaganda, they sponsor it to get to mainstream media. They sponsor it with influencers. So it's just different directions, pulling people different. Looking at red meat, like looking at what this vegan meat stuff that happened, just to discover that it had red dye, a popular carcinogen. But guess what? They use a lot of influencers to push that agenda forward. Even to the point where I was considering it as a better option. So my point is, propaganda. When you become very intentional about your health, you'll be able to detect propaganda. Now, when you become very intentional about your health, now people who are not intentional about their wealth, what happens? You are broke. What happens when you become intentional about your wealth? You begin to see yourself having what? You see yourself acquiring skills. Acquiring skills. When you become intentional about your wealth, you see yourself spending wisely. See, the whole idea is intentional, because your mind automatically, in any area of your life, just because somebody is winning in one area does not mean he's winning in other areas. This is why I say, be very careful of the goals that you set, because most people only set goals in about one or two areas. No, I'm not saying you can actively pursue all these goals in these areas, but if you don't know what you want, the high chances of you getting it are very slim. And there's this phrase from Jordan Peterson that keeps getting to me every time. It says, you don't get what you don't aim at. You might get what you aim at. And your aim keeps getting better the more you aim. So what that means is, if you're not intentional about your wealth, what happens? You begin to spend money on things that you don't need. You begin to waste money. You begin to what? You never will think of getting more, because that idea of more will not even be in your head. But when you're intentional about your wealth level, guess what happens? All of a sudden, you are moving different. You are not doing dumb shit with money. You're thinking of how to acquire more. Obviously, this is where more skills come in. Now, relationship is a very important one. Whether it's friendship or is a girlfriend you're looking for. All the guys that I coach, I've noticed something that most people don't know what they want in a woman. They may say, oh yeah, I want a woman that has like 10, 200, 2,000 traits. But from my experience, they don't know what they want. So what I always say is, narrow it down to your top three. If you're to pick only three things, maybe 5 max. If you're to pick only 3 things you want in a woman, right? What would those 3 things be? It takes like 30 minutes to an hour to answer that question. Because when you say 3, it forces them to think. It forces them to be intentional. And one thing about people is, the world does not want men that are intentional. Because men that are intentional, when I mean intentional, I mean people who know what they want in life. Because men that are intentional, they have to think. And this is where a lot of young men today are losing it. Even if you think about it, and from the tech space, and in the tech space, whenever we're designing products for clients, right, for multiple clients, we keep asking ourselves, we don't want the clients to think too much. We want the clients to just go and make it easy. So sometimes that one is unintentional, right? It's not a way of making the products better, but it has some effects that we did not see coming. That process of not making the user think is actually causing some degeneration in the brain. So this is why, even to this day, I'll tell you, I don't have Face ID or fingerprints. I always type my passwords on all my devices because, like I said, I'm somebody who likes putting that effort. I don't believe in making it easy. You make it easy for clients, not easy for yourself. That's something that I think has been keeping me. Then when you're intentional about your wealth, you acquire skills, you look for how to acquire more. Now, when you're intentional about relationships, you get to have what? Deeper friendships. One thing here is that most of your friends came from where? Conditions. Most of your friends came from conditions. And what happens to those conditions? If those conditions are still there, if your friends never make the choice to break those conditions, trust me, you people will remain there for life. Even though you move to a different environment, you will remain in that condition. So for example, you see guys who are born in the same area, same income brackets of parents. Because they are friends, they will give themselves ideas that lock them into that same life pattern, lifestyle. So what happens is, even if they change location, if they never think of changing their conditions together, I'm saying this because to save yourself, if you ever see your friends never wanting to grow, please do not owe them shit. Because these are friends that they happen to walk into your life and they worked based on condition and they are willing to keep the condition that same way. Now, you'll be stuck in life if you never make your life intentional. So what you're doing is, if you're intentional about your friends, be intentional. You want to know, okay, this guy who I'm about to follow, is he going somewhere in life? If you know that he's going somewhere in life, then you can be comfortable with him. Because if you know he's not going anywhere in life, he will try his possible best to talk you out of it. Now, I'm not saying that you should compete with your friends. All I'm saying is that if your friends are very intentional, right, you guys share beliefs and values. Now, there are people who have been lucky to have very great friendship. Now, pause. I'm not saying all of your friends should be money driven. I'm not saying that. My point is, all of your friends should at least have what they are doing, because in some extent, a man who is idle will always outstock a man who has something to do. He will always talk you out of it. So if your friends have somewhere they are going, I always say that life is a very, very harsh journey. Friends make it easier. But if your friends don't want it to succeed, they make it super difficult. So again, you begin to have what? You have deeper friendships. You have what? Quality partners. I'm using the word quality partners because I often hear guys complain about girls today, and I'm wondering, whenever I look at the girls they're talking about, it's mostly like all these Instagram baddies. And whenever I ask them, what did you want from Instagram baddie? They not think of their answer very well. This is why I say people don't think. Young men, they don't think. It's like, okay. It's like, what did you want from the body? What did you think the body will give to you? The body will give you fun times, but would you want to marry her? Okay. I begin to ask them. And my job is just to point out too, because the reality is, after coaching guys, right? The only is for some extent, they take some, they don't take some. Those that I coach for free, what happens is, this is why I say sometimes I give out free coaching for the sake of it, just to show people that a lot of the time when you don't pay, sometimes you don't follow the advice. So what they will do is, they will listen to me and say, yes, it makes sense. They'll prepare their list. Only a very few of them follow through. And the ones that follow through, the system always works for them. When you narrow down what you want in your partner, obviously your woman or your man, you got to realize that all of a sudden, now you're giving it serious thought. And what even makes this thing more interesting is that all of your action will be backed by what? Will be backed by a why. A strong, I'm not sure the camera can see this though, a strong why. And like Nishi said, somebody who knows why can be anyhow. So the more intentional you are, the more the reason you know you're intentional, the more the reason you know behind your intentions, the better for you. So a strong why in your happiness. You see, a lot of the time, people try to ascribe, they try to make themselves happy using what? External objects, like what? A shiny bag, material things. But when you're intentional about happiness, you get to realize that the true happiness of a man comes when he's progressing. What that means is, he's not seeing his way of getting money as a way of bragging. He's progressing. All he knows is that I am working towards something, I'm exploring. So happiness of men come from progressing, exploring, which is more like adventure. This is why I say, guys, trust me, one thing sure that is, if you treat your life like an adventure, women will love you for it. That's something that your dating coaches don't tell you, because when a man has an adventure, that adventure never ceases to die. It makes him become alive over and over and over again. What happens is, you now have what? You begin to see yourself following more of your purpose, right? Because you're intentional. You'll be more on your purpose. And there's no way you will have all these things and still be what? Unhealthy, diabetic, depressed. It's like, it's the same side of the coin. That is why I basically put these things here. That, well, if you're intentional on this side, this is what you get. If you are unintentional, this is what you get. Because you cannot get anything that is quality by accident. There are a few locks here and there. I mean, I did not work for my height. I was giving my height. So Apart from those kind of few locks, only a limit what you can call luck. The rest come from intentional focused energy, right? Like I said, focused energy where when you are not intentional, your attention, which is your most prized asset, not your money, your intention goes towards a bad diet, propaganda, unhealthy talks, bad sleep, what? Barely workout. But when it becomes directed, it becomes very intentional. You eat right, you what? Less sugar, you are less sugar. Sorry. It's supposed to be more protein, not more hey, more protein. For if you're being intentional about your wealth, you're acquiring skills, you're spending wisely, you're doing less dumb stuff. You see, again, speaking of it, let me just even clean this board now before I get. So another thing I would like to even discuss here on the same topic. Hey, I think I've lost my train of thoughts. Yes, is this argument of goals. Now I tell people don't the fastest narrative about goals is set one goal in your area, set one goal and focus on that one goal. The problem is that when you set one goal, right? You set one goal, maybe you set what a financial goal. What happens is that when you hit the goal, guess what? Instead of you asking yourself, what's next in life, your brain automatically, because you are focused on that one goal for far too long, too focused. What happens is your mind, you keep asking yourself how you can go to the next level, and this is how people just generate. But they forget that life is more than money, right? What about your relationships? What about what? Your happiness? Because if you think about it, this kind of thinking alone leads you to what? Unhappiness. Trust me. When you think about finances alone, now I'm not saying money is bad. Money is very, very good. Money gives you room for experiences. Money makes a lot of things easy. But if you think about money alone as your goal, you're going to have a problem. So this is why I say, instead of setting goals, I tell guys to instead design your life. Design your life around money, right? Money, health, happy relationships, and then happiness. You see, the whole idea is that somebody will come and argue and say you can't focus on all these things at the same time. You can't focus on everything at the same time. No. Instead, for example, if money, because obviously money is a large chunk of everything. When you have your focus on money, this is your priority number one. At the same time, you are not ignoring your health. All you are doing is that you are watching your lifestyle choices in the long run, right? Because this idea that you should focus on money alone leads to quick wealth. But when you have the money, what is next? What happens to your health? What happens to your relationships? What happens to your friendships? But when you do lifestyle design, you begin to ask yourself, what daily habits do I need to get to where I want to go? What actions? So I'll give a typical example, right? Somebody who designs his life to want to have money and a very good social life, this is what he's going to do. He will pick a career path where he can earn good money and still have proper social skills. One of those career paths is most likely going to be what? Sales. Because he's interacting with people, he's learning psychology. And somebody who's good at selling, obviously, if he sells to different kinds of people, especially in the B2C space, you're going to see him very good with women. Because he must have learned psychology, persuasion, what drives people, the emotion. So, again, now, you're going to ask yourself, design your life around health, money, relationships, happiness. Like I said, there's priority. But the goal of having those ideas is you want an intention in that area. And two, you're asking yourself, what are the habits you can start doing now to make sure that you're better? And this itself is what I preach every day about being a well-rounded man. I'm looking for a very, very good word for this though. I know there are different words that I've seen. I've seen Renaissance man, I have seen Ubermensch man. I'm looking for like a word that strikes it very well. So I don't want this video to be so long. If you like the idea you heard in this video, please share with somebody who you know find it very helpful. Such kind of word of mouth referral guarantees that this channel grows and I can help more young men solve their problems. If you made it this far, please share with them. Thank you very much. Talk to you soon. My name is Ton Oreye. I create content to help young men find a way to win in life in a world where just because we are a man, we are made to feel guilty. Talk to you soon and bye for now.